The late afternoon sky sagged under a pale gray veil, the kind that warned of an approaching storm. Wind tore across the quiet village like a restless messenger, rattling shutters and carrying the scent of rain. On the veranda, Diep stood motionless, her fingers unconsciously tightening around James's scarf, the one object that still held the faint, familiar trace of his scent. It had been days since his disappearance, yet the fabric felt warm with memory, sharp with longing. Behind her came the hurried slap of tiny sandals on wet brick. "Miss Diep," little Nhi called out, breathless. "There's a man asking about Mr. James at the entrance of the village." Diep's heart constricted. She knelt to meet the girl's eyes, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Who was he? Did you see his face clearly?" Nhi shook her head, raindrops glistening on her bangs. "No. But he said, 'I'm looking for James.'" That's all. Her pulse quickened. Without hesitation, Diep seized Nhi's hand and began walking fast, almost running, toward the old banyan tree at the village gate. Each step felt as though it drained the breath from her chest. Under the massive canopy of the ancient tree stood a man dressed in a dark coat, its collar lifted against the wind. His expression appeared calm, even courteous, yet his eyes carried a sharp tension, the kind found in people who'd been running from something. "You're Diep, right?" he asked. His voice was low, urgent. "Yes," she replied immediately. "Do you know where James is?" "He's been out of contact for days." The man inhaled deeply, scanning the surroundings as though afraid the shadows themselves might be listening. "I was his colleague, and a close friend. We were working together on a project. But the last time I spoke to him, he told me he was being followed." A cold wave rolled through Diep's body. "Followed by who?" "A group," the man said without hesitation. "A group that wants something James has, something he refused to give back." Her breath stalled. "What was it? What did he have?" The man shook his head. He didn't have time to explain. "But before he disappeared, James sent me a message, incomplete, fragmented. In it, he mentioned you, and the child." He looked at Nhi. "That means he feared you two might be in danger." The wind howled through the banyan leaves above them, as though echoing a warning. The stranger pulled out his phone with a trembling hand. "I need you to see this." He opened an image. A grainy photo appeared. James standing inside a dim, cavernous warehouse. Behind him were towering crates. On the ground a smear of water or oil glistened, as if something heavy had been dragged away moments earlier. Diep felt her knees weaken. "Where is this place?" "I'm not certain. But the markings on the crates, He zoomed in on a symbol half hidden by shadow. They look like labels from an abandoned warehouse complex in the old Western Industrial Zone. Her grip tightened until her fingers turned white. Can you take me there? Please. I have to find him. The man hesitated, not out of reluctance, but fear. If that photo is from there, it won't be safe. He paused. But I'll go with you. James wouldn't forgive me if I left you alone. Night fell quickly, swallowing the village in a darkness too thick for comfort. Their motorbike carved a thin blade of light through the rural road, bouncing slightly on uneven patches. Diep sat behind the stranger, holding NHI close, shielding her from the cold wind that cut across the fields. NHI whispered into Diep's shoulder, her voice trembling. Miss Diep, do you think Mr. James is hurt? Diep swallowed hard. We're going to find him, she said. I promise. She wished, desperately, that she believed her own words. The engine roared, then softened. The road narrowed, turning into a rough dirt path leading toward the silent silhouette of the old industrial zone. The complex appeared like a mausoleum for forgotten machines. Rusted roofs sagged in places, twisted metal beams jutted out like bones. Not a single light flickered, not a sound stirred except the wind clawing through the empty corridors. Stay close, the stranger whispered. And keep quiet. They moved toward the last warehouse at the far edge of the compound, the only one with a door slightly ajar, as if someone had left in haste. Diep pushed the door gently. A long, metallic screech echoed throughout the cavernous interior, raising goosebumps across her arms. Inside was nothing but darkness and remnants of abandonment. Her phone's flashlight swept across the floor and froze. Footprints. A long streak, as though something heavy had been dragged, and in the center of the aisle. James's handkerchief. Diep fell to her knees, scooping it up. The faint scent of his cologne rose from the fabric, warm and heartbreaking. James, you were here, she whispered, part declaration, part prayer. A sudden rustling broke the silence. So soft at first, then sharper. Something, or someone, moving at the far end of the warehouse. Diep spun around, clutching NHI protectively. The stranger stepped in front of them. There's someone in here, he murmured. The footsteps grew louder, slow, heavy, deliberate. Diep held her breath. From the depths of the darkness, a voice rasped. Looking for James, are you? A low chuckle followed. Too late. The footsteps drew closer. Diep tightened her arms around NHI, pulling the girl behind her, while the stranger, James's supposed friend, stepped forward, forming a protective barrier between them and whatever lurked in the darkness. From the far end of the warehouse, a silhouette gradually took shape. The figure was tall, broad-shouldered, walking with the unhurried confidence of someone who enjoyed being feared. A cap obscured much of his face, leaving only the lower half visible under the thin beam of Diep's phone. Strange shadows clung to him, as if the darkness itself had chosen to follow. He smirked. "You arrived later than I expected," he said, voice low and mocking. "James left this place long before you came." Diep's breath caught in her throat. "Where is he?" she demanded, her voice quivering despite her effort to keep it steady. "What did you do to him?" He didn't answer. Instead, he walked slow circles around them, his movements predatory, as though he were appraising prey before striking. James's friend, the stranger who'd brought Diep here, clenched his fists and took a step forward. "If you touched him," he warned, "I swear." "Swear what?" The man in the cap laughed, cutting him off. "I didn't lay a hand on your precious James. I merely followed him, because of what he stole." Diep's stomach dropped. What did he take? What could possibly be worth all this? The man in the cap locked eyes with her, and his stare was sharp enough to wound. "It belonged to us," he said coldly. "And James took it." Her voice cracked. "He wouldn't steal. He's not that kind of man." "Oh, I didn't say he was greedy." The stranger tilted his head, the half-smile on his lips unnervingly calm. "I said he took it to protect someone." Diep froze. "Her? Or NHI?" He saw the flicker of panic in her eyes and let out a low chuckle. "Ah, so he didn't tell you anything." Typical James, always a step too late. Before tension could simmer into an explosion, a sudden metallic clink echoed through the warehouse, small, sharp, unmistakable. All three turned. The man in the cap glanced toward the sound. James's friend seized the moment, pushing Diep and NHI backward. "Run," he shouted. But Diep didn't run. Her gaze had locked onto something glimmering faintly on the floor, something achingly familiar. A watch. James's silver watch, the one he never removed. The glass was cracked, the strap broken, as if torn violently from his wrist. Diep lunged forward and grabbed it. Her hands shook. "James? You were here. You were so close?" She flipped the watch over, and her heart nearly stopped. A small, folded piece of paper was wedged inside the back plate. With trembling fingers, she opened it. There, written hastily in smeared ink, were 3 words. "Don't trust him." Diep looked up, her expression suddenly taut and fierce. Which man did James mean? The one in the cap, or the one claiming to be his friend? Both men stood across from each other like opposing forces poised for war. The warehouse air grew thick, suffocating. Even little NHI sensed the shift, clinging to Diep's leg. The man in the cap smirked when he saw the note. "I told you," he murmured. "James never got the chance to tell you everything." But he did know one thing. One of the men standing beside you tonight isn't on your side. Diep turned slowly. James's friend tensed, eyes wide with urgency. "Don't listen to him," he protested. "He's trying to make you doubt everyone." "Oh?" the man in the cap chuckled. "Are you afraid she might finally hear the truth?" The two men locked eyes with venomous intensity, the air vibrating between them like a wire stretched too tight. Diep took a step back, shielding NHI with her arm. Her fingers tightened around James's broken watch like a blade drawn in self-defense. "Stop," she said sharply. "I'll trust no one until I hear it from James himself." A dangerous silence thickened. Outside, the storm winds intensified. The warehouse door slammed repeatedly, each strike echoing like warning drums. Then, abruptly, a phone rang. The sound sliced through the tension. James's friend froze. He reached into his pocket with trembling hands. A number glowed on the screen. An unknown number. But something about it made his face drain of color. "It's James's backup number," he whispered. "A number only he and I know." Diep felt the world tilt. The phone rang again, and again. Then, it connected. A broken, breathless voice came through the speaker. "Diep. Don't trust anyone, they're coming, run." Static crackled. A muffled shout. A grunt of pain. Then nothing. The call died. Diep stood motionless, her heart pounding like a trapped bird inside her chest. The man in the cap smirked, the expression slow and chilling. "Well," he said quietly, "now you understand." He stepped forward, voice dropping to a cold whisper. "The game has only just begun." Quote,